Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by Fireheart Pictures and viewers like you. Thank you. We are coming to the end of this wonderful three-part series. First, we learned that we could love fear and actually take action to achieve our goals. Secondly, we learned that our dreams can become a reality. One way is by sharing our stories with others. But tonight, I'm going to give you permission to step outside yourselves and do something bigger, something greater. I'm so happy you're joining us.
From Los Angeles, this is KLCS PBS. Welcome to Everybody with Angela Williamson, an innovation, arts, education, and public affairs program. Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. And now your host, Dr. Angela Williamson.
We are going to finish our three-part series with, I'm calling her the closer, because she is going to grant us permission. Her story is phenomenal. Patty Aubery, thank you so much for being part of this special three-part series in beautiful Santa Barbara.
I know. Well, thank you for having me.
It is such a pleasure. You know, when I read your story, I mean, I felt so connected in so many ways, and I'm sure viewers will as well. I mean, the struggles that we have as mothers and working mothers, but also to just giving ourselves permission to do our next step, what's meant for us. And so I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your background, and we'll talk more about how you're helping us get there in segment 2.
My background, well, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, so I'm an official Valley girl, and literally took me. I went to college in San Diego, went to San Diego State, and I was saying to you earlier, like, I never wanted to take typing, and my dad was a typist in the Army, and I said, I'm not going to take typing. My secretary is going to do that. My dad said, no daughter of mine is not going to take typing, and so I did. Thank God. And because what happened was I started working, I answered an ad in the paper that said secretary wanted, and I always said I'll never be a secretary, but I had set a goal, one goal. I'd never set a goal in my life. I didn't even know what a goal was, and I had set a goal that I wanted to make $25,000 a year. I was making $14,900 a year at the time. I answered the ad in the paper. Turned out it was Jack Canfield, and I didn't get the job. So I thought, well, there must be something better. Anyway, he called back a few months later and said, actually, the person didn't work out, and I would love you to come back in for an interview. And so I said, okay, but it's going to cost you extra. I want 30. He said, okay. I thought, wow, he's nice and he's willing to be, pay that. Who knows what will happen? So that's how I started. I started as a secretary and went from there.
Well, you make it sound just, started from a secretary, went from there. But there was so much in that story there, because I love the story that you told me about you're the secretary and you are seeing all of these stories come in for Chicken Soup for the Soul, but you start getting your own ideas.
Right.
And so what happens then?
Well, so when I was a secretary, I eventually worked my way up to VP of operations very quickly, because I thought, this place isn't working. We need to reorg everything. And so I kind of changed everything out. And it was probably about 3 months in that I was working with Jack. He came back to the office one day and said, hey, I want to write a book, and I want to put all these stories in a book. I thought, okay, why not? Thank God I was 24, no opinion. Yes. Today, I would have an opinion. And I thought, all right, let's do it. So we worked on it for years. And it took us 5 years to actually publish that first book, because we edited it and edited it and edited it before it came out. And it came out in 93, and we had a bestseller list in 94, I want to say, or maybe 95. And so the publisher would sing the song, keep those chickens rolling, 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 rolling. So we said, we'll do a second book. And then Marcy Shimoff called and said, I have an idea to do Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul. And Jack said, that's great, thank you. She said, no, you're not a woman. And he went, you're right. And that was sort of the beginning of the series. And so then my sister had come to work with me. I was pregnant with my first son. And she was in nursing school. She just graduated. She was waiting to study or pass the state boards.
Yes.
And so I said, please help me just get through all these stories. We have millions of stories. At the same time, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I'm home nursing. My husband walks in and says, I have good news and bad news. I'm like, okay, bad news? He said, your mom has cancer. I'm like, what's the good news? He's like, they caught it so early, she's gonna be fine. And so as she was going through her treatments, my sister said, why don't we put together a book called Chicken Soup for the Surviving Soul? And I said to her, and I quote, for everyone listening, why would they ever let us do a chicken soup book? We work here. And she said, excuse me? Why would they not let you? You have been working so hard for years to make this book a success. And so I said, all right, so we went in and I was really nervous and we had this whole proposal for Jack and Mark and said, we really want to do this. And they're like, great idea. But if it hadn't been for my sister saying, hold on a second, you deserve this, I never would have gone on to write 15 other New York Times bestsellers. I was actually taking myself off the field, out of the game, before the coach took me out of the game. You know, I was editing my dreams and goals before they were. I was literally saying no to myself before I was even giving them the opportunity to do so.
So here's my question to you, because your sister was your cheerleader.
Yeah.
But from the story that you're telling me and just from our conversations, you have always been everyone else's cheerleader. And so what do you think, why do we miss that certain piece of we are okay cheerleading for everybody else, but when it comes to ourselves, we don't realize that that could be our same dream too?
I think we just are always, by nature, women are nurturers, and we just tell ourselves stories that don't support our future. And you know, my story was, I didn't go to Harvard, I'm not smart enough, you know, I'm lucky to have this job. So for me, that was not going to take me to the next level. And I think a lot of us just, our beliefs get in our way, and our old stories are the old version of us. And so we have to have a new story for a new version. And we also have to have people who are there to say, you can do this, you've got this. And you know, if you don't have that, it's very hard to do it because we just talk ourselves out of it. I always say, if you leave me alone long enough with myself, it's not a good thing. I'll talk myself out of anything. So.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, this is also too really great advice, because my question to you is, how can someone turn out to be that cheerleader? Because if you didn't have your sister there, you probably wouldn't be talking today. And the books that you have published since then. So how can we learn to be those cheerleaders for other people that may need that extra push?
Well, I think first of all, you have to go and do it. You have to live your dream. And I think if you're scared, just remember, if I do this, I'm going to be that beacon of light for the next woman that comes behind me. I will be that for them. So if I can do it, so can they. I try to take it outside of myself and make it all about service or other people. I still do. I do this work, not for myself, but to empower other women to really have that opportunity to have the, you know, to give themselves permission to be seen. And so if they see, well, she went from secretary to CEO, maybe I can have something too. And so I share and I share and I share because I want women to get there sooner. I hid for years. I didn't own my greatness at all. Even though I had all these best-selling books, I still was like, people would say, what do you do? I'm like, he's an author. You know, I'd point to Jack. I never owned it. And so I want to be the reminder for these women, like, you are worthy, you do deserve this, you're not being selfish, you're doing the thing that God put you on this planet to do. And so I used to be a cheerleader for one man, and now I'm a cheerleader for the world of women.
Well, when we come back, I want you to tell us how we can own it. But before we do that, you said something that was really important, and so I want to spend the last few minutes before we go into our break talking about that. And that is how we can be above ourselves through the service. Because what you're asking all of us to do is to change our mindset. And it seems so natural for you because you do so incredible things. So how can we make that natural for ourselves?
Never.
Never?
I mean, you can make it natural, but it's a new habit. And so you have to develop the habit. It's like building a new muscle. And so you have to walk through the fire to get to the other side. And the only way to do that is to survive the risks. So go for it, go for your dream, do it. No, even if it's an out-of-body experience and you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this, it doesn't matter. You just have to do it and do it again and do it again and do it again until it somewhat becomes normal. And then we get to a plateau and then we have a new dream or we have a new goal. And then we have to grow some more. And then we have to get scared again. And I've been very scared on so many occasions. I mean, so scared. But I knew if I didn't do it, I was going to break my promise to my mother. And I told her I would no longer be invisible.
I love that. So when we come back, you are going to tell us how you stopped being invisible and how we can start owning it to get to the next level, and how we can probably do that with some of the tools that you have at your arsenal to help us with, okay?
You got it.
So stay tuned through this break as we finish this phenomenal series on helping you to transform, to tell your stories, to transform your fear and turn it into action. And now Patty Aubery is going to tell us to own it, so stay right there.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Jim Rohn once said, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." In my life, the team member that became the most important is a woman named Patty Aubery. I hired her as my first secretary, and now she's the president of my company. She's really good at keeping relationships going with people. I'm kind of buried in my research and wanting to learn the next thing that I can teach, writing my books and so forth. So you want to find someone that complements your talents and compensates for your weaknesses.
It just became a great relationship and a great partnership. And over time, we started with self-esteem seminars, we started teaching teachers, and then Chicken Soup happened. I met Jack in September of 1989, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was 24 years old, and I started looking through the paper, and I saw this job, and it said, secretary wanted $25,000 a year. Call me whatever you want for $25,000 a year in 1989. That's not a bad job for someone that's 24 out of school. It didn't say what it was for or anything like that. And I drove down to Pacific Palisades and I went into this townhouse for this interview with this guy and his wife. And they talked to me about their business and how they were doing self-esteem work. And I didn't understand any of it really. And, we met. I was 24. He was 49. If you asked me if I was going to be working with him when I was 51 and he was 72, I would look at you like you had 3 heads. But it was sort of a match made in heaven. I was really more of a business side, and he really was so driven by making a difference that it was a great team. And for me, it was the first time that someone trusted me enough to let me just be my crazy self.
We could do the quote first. I was thinking of an affirmation. Jack and Patty are such a team. And Patty is it's like one of her foundations she stands on, and that she's always been. She is a super loyal friend and partner, and she's got his back. She holds it. She's next to him. She's out in front of him. She works really, really hard to support him and make sure that his mission gets out to as many people as it can, because she really sees that his work makes a difference.
Welcome back. We are going to continue our conversation with Patty Aubery, and she is going to tell us how we can own it. And one way we do that is by granting ourselves permission. And I will forever think of you and granting permission. I think you should trademark that. I don't know if you have done that yet, but I mean, you pretty much did that by saying to yourself, you need to own it. So tell us how you did it with the way you did it, and tell us how we can do it.
Well, I think for so long, I was waiting for somebody else to grant me permission. And I was getting resentful. I was getting upset. I was telling myself stories that people must not think I'm good enough, or they would give me permission to come and speak or come and do whatever it was that was next for me, which was really speaking and coaching other women. And I remember I was in the car with my business partner, Jack Canfield, and I said, I was upset. And I said, well, why aren't you just supporting me the way I've supported you? He's like, well, what are you talking about? What do you want? And I said, well, I want to be on stage more, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And he's like, well, when were you going to tell me? He's like, I'm not a mind reader. I mean, you never asked. And so if you don't ask, you don't get. And I was like, okay, well, I'm giving myself permission. And I was kind of angry because I hadn't really owned it yet. So I'm several years ago, so now I'm a little bit more graceful about giving myself permission.
Okay.
It's like, okay, permission granted. I'm going to ask for what I want. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to go for my dreams, and I'm going to ask for support and ask for help where I need it. And so I started down that journey, and life became a lot easier, and I was a lot happier. But I was waiting for someone else, and there is no other person other than ourselves. We have to give ourselves permission to really look at, what do I really want? Because how often, I work with women all day long and say, well, what do you really want? Not what you think you can have, but what do you really, really want? And they look at me like I have three heads. Because how often do we really take the time to think about what do we truly want? And if we believe that anything's possible, we don't have to figure out the logical way to get there. We just have to have a huge dream. And then we have to share it with others, and life unfolds. But it didn't start that way. I mean, really what happened for me was I hid for a long time. And then what happened was we sold Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I thought, now what do we do? Now I'm not the president of Chicken Soup for the Soul. I have nowhere to hide. And my mom had gotten a second bout of breast cancer. And she said to me on her deathbed, she said, promise me that you will take credit. And she said, I didn't raise a daughter to be invisible. You need to show up and speak up and be seen. You're just as responsible as everybody else in the cast of characters to make these things happen. Promise me. And I did. And so for me, that's what, I know I have her. And so if I get scared, I just know that she's there and she's supporting me.
And why do you think that, I know you work a lot with women, and your story, a lot of women feel that they feel invisible. I mean, do we need that inner voice that helps? I mean, in your case, it's your mother who poured into you that confidence. But do we need to have that inner voice to get us to the next level, or is there another way of getting there?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways to get there, but I think first it's coming to terms with the fact that you want something, and if you want it, you're meant to have it. And so then it's about sharing what you want so other people can support you. So my mission is to make sure that if I hear from anybody something that they want to do that's big and scary and oogie boogie, I am there to support them, because I want them to get there further and faster than I did. Because I passed up on so many opportunities, so many, where people would call and say, oh, can you
share one? I want.
Okay, so
Please.
So I did Chicken Soup for the Surviving Soul, and from that I realized people were surviving, the people that had faith.
Yes.
I thought, well, maybe I should do Chicken Soup for the Christian Soul next. And so as I started to go through that, I started getting all these offers to speak. Come to this, Coliseum with 7,000 people. I'm like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm the president of Chicken Soup, because I was such a chicken, pardon the pun, to actually step into the next version of me when the universe is like, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And I finally did at one point, and I was scared to death. But my story was, I'll forget my lines. I won't know what I'm talking about. I didn't realize there's actually a formula to a presentation, and anybody can learn it if they just figure it out. Which is, I teach that now too.
Oh, that's nice to know.
like how to speak your message and how to not get lost and what are the key ingredients and how to think like an architect and all these different things. But I literally hid from that opportunity, and I would have sold more millions of books. I would have made a massive difference in the world, and I made a huge difference. But I think my ego got in the way. I know my ego got in the way. And had I thought, in order for as many women as possible, as many people as possible to hear my message, I have to be a scaredy cat and get up on that huge stage anyway. But I didn't have anybody that was real eager to get me there because I had a full-time job. I had babies. I was raising a family. I had a husband I thought my wife was going to stay home, so I had all that going on, the guilt and all those wonderful things that happen to all of us when we're building our business and our families at the same time. So I just stayed in my comfort zone. And then I called Marcy at some point, who did Chickens for the Women's Soul, and said, hey, Marcy, how much did you make in speaking, not through our books? And she said, you don't want to know. So I'm just going to tell you, I passed up on a whole lot of money. So I didn't get the money. I wasn't able to share my message with more people, and I stayed small. And that was then, this is now. And so now my mission is to really be that person for other women to see that, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I was a C student. I got a D in English. It took me 7 years to get through college. I'm nothing special, but I was enthusiastic and I believed in the mission and I had the passion, and it became my purpose. And so, I'm here today with you.
And I'm so honored, and I love that you ended that with you're doing your purpose. So my question to you is, because you mentioned the universe several times, and you did pass up on opportunities, but you're doing those today. Do you think the universe, when we pass up on those opportunities and it is our purpose, do you think the universe just continues after us? I'm trying to say like he's chasing us or she's chasing us, however people believe, chasing us until we do what we have to do.
Yes, I do. And I think that. It's a deep down inside knowing, but people struggle with purpose. And so part of it for me, so what I was great at was cheering on Jack Canfield. I was great at connecting with all the other people. We have a saying, he knows everything, I know everyone. And so I was a relationship builder. And I never could connect that was just my unique ability. I was born with it. Once I figured it out, it's like, okay, now how can I take it to a higher level? How can I monetize it? How can I take my purpose and my passion and actually make money at the same time and build more abundance for myself and my family? And so that was a whole different role as well. So I love to sit down with people and really look at, what do you want? What are you just innately good at and you're overthinking it? And how do we bring them together and get you so clear that the sky's open, the seas part, and life is wonderful?
Well, before we end our conversation, you are doing that today. And so I want to spend the last part of our segment talking a little bit about that. When you stepped out and became all that the universe wanted for Patty, you had and then this is how I'm seeing it because it's how I see you. You have these women wanting to know how they can do that too. And because you made it your mission to make sure women get there and get there faster, what are some of the tools that you hand out to women to help them get to their purpose quicker?
Well, I have a permission granted program that I offer. We're doing a permission granted conference coming up soon. It will be on my website. But it's really, I offer the community and the tools, and I offer them, time to sit with themselves, to look at and take the steps through this transformational journey to go from where they are to where they want to be. But transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And so we're always transforming. We're transforming until we're not, and then we're gone.
Yes.
And so as much as it might seem simple or easy, or somebody might be thinking, oh, that's good, but I'll never get that. It's not true. All you need is a safe space to be supported and to be encouraged to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in you, I will believe in you. Lisa Nichols said to me at one point, she said, when you asked me to do Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, all I could think of was I'm not a writer. She said, but in that moment, I chose to borrow your belief in me. And I said, yes. And now look, she's amazing.
She's
and she was always amazing. I mean, that woman opens her mouth, it's like, God is speaking, you know?
Well, you say her name, and I picture one of her speeches on stage. So, I mean,
Exactly.
just amazing.
Exactly.
Wow. I love, because normally when I've talked to so many incredible people on the show, including yourself. But you know what I love about you is that you will take someone and when they come to you and say, I don't feel completely confident, and you will pour into them so they can get to that next level. How do you do that?
I just zone right in because I see you. I was you. I am you. We're all one. And so I can see whether it's a 24-year-old, a 34-year-old, a 44-year-old, I can see myself in that decade. I can see myself in that confused beginning of being frustrated, not really knowing my ground, to those 30s where I kind of was so passionate but didn't know how I was going to get it all done, to my 40s where I kind of thought I knew everything but really didn't, to my 50s where you have a whole new story going on where you really just say, I'm not settling at all anymore for anything. So I see greatness in people, and people are my passion. And if I see it, I'm sort of like a bulldog. I'm not going to let you loose. I will come and find you. And because Janet Atwood did that for me with the passion test. I shared a dream with her, and she held me to it. I was so afraid for my first big luxury retreat, big dollar amount, and I shared it with her. And that was one of those dreams that you have, or ideas that you have early in the morning, but by 4 o'clock in the afternoon it sounds crazy. Well, she wasn't letting me out of it. And we actually did this huge retreat. It was amazing, but I was so scared every step of the way. And so it's women like that that did show up for me when I finally said, I want to do this. They're like, well, it's about time. And so together we're all on this mission to make a bigger difference in the world and give women permission to show up, speak up, and be seen.
That was, I just don't have any other questions for you, because that's the perfect way to end the show. Thank you so much for everything that you've done just to motivate all of us throughout the years with the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, what you're doing now to encourage women to just show up and own it at the same time. And most of all, thank you for sharing that story about you and your mother. It really tells us just what a tremendous woman you are, Patty, and I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on Everybody with Angela Williamson. I so appreciate all of you viewers that are supporting this program with the special series that we had over the last 3 episodes. Join us on social media and we'll continue the same conversation we had. Good night and stay well.